Welcome back to another episode of The Science of Sound. Today I have Laina Goley with me and Laura Penix with me, and we're going to talk all about fasting.
This is a Soak podcast.
Welcome to The Science of Sound, where cutting-edge research meets real-world application. Hosted by Aaron Fournier, this podcast explores the fascinating intersection of sound, frequencies, and human performance. From the science behind bioharmonic resonance to the future of sound-based wellness, we break down the data, the discoveries, and the impact sound has on your mind and body. Let's dive in.
When did you first learn about fasting, and what was fasting to you when you first learned about it?
You know, I actually don't know when I started fasting. I'm going to say maybe 6-7 years ago. And I think I was just diving into it because I had a lot of food noise, a lot of problems, and eating disorder. And so I wanted to be careful with that as well. But I just started skipping meals. But it was weird because I'm like, you know what? Why do I feel like I feel better?
Right.
I feel more in tune with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I had more energy. My brain felt like it turned on. So by accident, I'm going to say I just, started playing around with it more and more. I also got into OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. And I did that for a couple years. And that actually has some consequences to it. So we want to really be sensitive and understand the body and fasting. And the body needs variation. Mm-hmm. You can't keep a fast going all the time because, again, there's going to be consequences. You're going to be depleting yourself of nutrients. And the science now on OMAD is some crazy things and some things that I had that I did not realize until I started diving into the science of that.
Yeah, so that's. I want to stop you there because
sorry, I can go on and on. Get excited.
The cart before the horse a little bit, but that's really exciting and also really interesting. And something that I experienced as well is that idea of when I started fasting, it was intermittent fasting. That was kind of the first time I heard about fasting. Was this idea of intermittent fasting where you shorten your eating cycle, your eating window to 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day. Yeah. And then for the rest of the time you're fasting. But now fasting has turned into something else entirely, I feel like. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with autophagy and the science that's come out about these extended fasts. So 12, 24, 36, 72, multi-day fasts, and then the different healing mechanisms and body mechanisms that start happening that can really impact positively and potentially negatively your body depending on just where you're at. And so I want us to dive into that a little bit. But you mentioned OMAD. So if we just start with what is fasting and what are the different types of fasting. So OMAD is 1 meal a day. Right.
Yeah. And then the intermittent fasting, it can be anywhere from starting at 12 hours to 72 hours. I mean, people can go on and on for however long they wanted to. But those are the ones that have been really studied and the different things that go on in the body. But men and women are different. So there's different fasts for different times. I even dove in deeper because menstruating women have a different fasting cycle that they should follow, and then women in perimenopause and menopause have a different fasting cycle. Men totally different.
Interesting.
So there's
a type of fast
ones
for everyone.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's very cool.
Laura, can you tell us a little bit about your experience and your journey with fasting and when did you first hear about fasting?
Yeah, so fasting for me, when I was younger, my church at the time used to fast like once a month. On the first of every month, it was like a church-wide thing. I think I was in high school at the time, so I did it every once in a while, but when you're in high school, I'm not going to like skip a meal, So it wasn't until I got to be more of an adult that I did start incorporating fasting in my life. For me, at that time, it was always like a spiritual thing because I didn't know any of the science behind fasting. I really didn't ever do it for like weight loss or body things. It was just like, I need answers, or it's more for spiritual stuff. So
there wasn't that much science.
Probably
as well.
Right.
And so,
because this was probably, I would say 10 or 15 years ago for me that I had first started fasting. So I've done, I don't know, half a dozen like 3-day fasts. Yeah. Most of them were for spiritual reasons. And so now I know from learning from you guys, I know that I wasn't always doing it right, because sometimes I felt physically, I felt worse. Right. And you're supposed to feel better after you fast. So that's like the key of you did a good fast, is you're supposed to feel better. And so, I drink probably too much black coffee, because that's like the one thing they say you can have. Well, if your adrenals are shot in the first place, or you have adrenal fatigue, that makes it worse. All these things that I know we'll get into. But so I have a lot of experience with fasting now, knowing the good ways to fast. I've been able to do it in the last couple of years, where it's like, oh man, I feel great. It's super beneficial. So I love that we have science now, and there's specific times for the different types of people to fast a certain way, a certain time of your menstrual cycle, all those different things, where it's like we can really be super beneficial to our bodies to fast.
Yeah.
So
you brought up 3 things that I want to go back to. The first one is that you first heard about fasting from your church in high school. And so keying in on the high school component of that, same thing for me, right? When I was in high school, the idea of fasting was about not eating meals and was about starvation.
Yeah.
Like that was the mental concept of fasting. Yeah. It wasn't healthy. It was, why would I do this?
It's like deprivation.
It was food deprivation, right? That was the mindset going into any type of fast. Whereas now when I think about fasting, I think about all the positive things it's going to do for my body. So we've talked a lot about mindset shifts. And so that mindset shift is definitely one of the first things before you even go into a fast, is making sure that you're coming into it with the right type of mindset.
Totally.
And so that's something that I think as we get older, we can more easily do that, and we can see that there's positive benefits.
Yeah, you're
to
not
fasting.
Depriving your body. You're actually rewarding your body.
Right.
You're giving your body all kinds of ammunition to fight dead cells and all these things.
And
we're going to
fasting,
autophagy.
it's that, it's a diet. And it's not, it's a healing state.
Right.
Yes.
It's incredible.
It can be incorporated into your diet and into your routine.
Right.
But again, there's a specific type for everybody. And I know that there are people that do 1 day of eating, 1 day of fasting, and that works great for them. And that's amazing. And that's, I think one of the important things that we'll get to is listen to your body. Absolutely. If you feel good, if you're happy, if you got positive outcomes coming out of the fast, that's great. Keep that up. But if you don't feel better, if you're drinking maybe too much black coffee, maybe in the fast you need to not drink caffeine or a different type of caffeine so that it's easier on the adrenals.
Right.
It's just, those are the types of things that you need to be looking out for, which also brings up why some fasts are medically assisted. So if you're going to go on an extended fast, you would want to get a health checkup. You would want to go see your primary care doctor ahead of time, do some blood tests and things like that to make sure that this isn't going to be a bad thing for your body, and maybe make, if you have certain chronic diseases and things, make things worse.
Because fasting can be a stressor on the body. And again, it depends on where you're at. And so, you want to be sensitive to that. But
on the flip side, you have the idea of people that are healing themselves from cancer by fasting.
Right.
And so there's amazing things too.
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting there, I'm always amazed at the human body, because honestly, our women's bodies can actually make a baby. I mean, let's just think about that. So obviously, if you can create another human, surely you can heal yourself. Your body has the power to heal.
Well, and when you go through pregnancy, all of your nutrients are going to the baby first, then secondarily to you.
Right.
And so when you think about that, like, you could potentially be in a fasting state while you're pregnant, because depending on how much or how little and what types of food you're eating, it might all be going to the child at some point. So just interesting.
Fascinating.
Definitely don't recommend fasting.
Disclaimer: do not fast when you're pregnant. You'll be mean and mad.
So jumping back really quickly, I wanted the second thing that you mentioned outside of like high school and the way that when we're younger we think about fasting as skipping a meal. But the second thing you said was the spiritual component of this. And that is something I love about fasting, is that pick your religion. It doesn't matter. I want to say every religion, but 99% of religions have some sort of fasting component inside them. And so to me, I feel like yes, science is just now catching up and starting to really study in depth fasting and all the positive benefits that we can get out of it. But hidden in religion is some of that secret knowledge, something that we used to know that now we're learning again. And so when we think about the 40-day fast, right? Like that's something that people do. Now, if you're going to go 40 days, it should be medically supervised, right? Like there are things that you should do before going that long without eating. That's a big step. But there are huge transformations that people make when they go on 40-day fasts. And that's both physically, mentally, and spiritually as well. And so I think that spiritual component is really exciting, really interesting, really fascinating, and hopefully something that'll be studied more with scientific research as time goes on.
Absolutely. And I feel like with the spiritual component of fasting, you're really dying to yourself, because one of the biggest desires that we have as a human body is to eat. Because if you don't eat, we die. And it's constant. It's every 2 hours or every 4 hours or whatever. And so when you tell yourself you're not going to eat, your stomach is constantly telling you something different every couple hours. And so that gives you the opportunity, I think this is the spiritual component, to die to yourself and to say, no, I am not going to let my body, my stomach control me. And I think what that does is it gives you more willpower. It really builds your willpower. And I think on the spiritual side of things, you get more still inside, because there's not all this constant noise. I heard a statistic the other day, and I wish I could remember it, but it talked about, I think it was 30% of our thoughts are related to food. So 30% of the thoughts we think as humans have something to do with food. And it could be more if you like to eat more, I
think it's higher.
Yeah, maybe it was higher, but I was like, wow. Yeah. So all of our little constant mind chatter, so much of it, a third of our thoughts are about what are we going to eat? Food. So you shut that off. Well, you have a lot of brain space to maybe pray or think about other things you want to do in your life or whatever. So it's just super powerful.
Well, that's really fascinating too. I forget the statistic as well, but I want to say it was above 90% of our thoughts are the same yesterday as they will be today.
Yes.
So if 30% or more of those are food related, you're freeing up a third of your thought processes to be new and transformational. So that's where it's new for your in fasting. And so I want to start talking about this, about what happens when we fast and the bodily functions. But it's new mentally. It's a refresh.
It's a renewing
mind, body,
of
spirit.
Your mind. Yes.
That's amazing.
And it really does shut down the food noise.
Yeah.
But a lot of the food noise is the toxins from our food.
Yeah.
Right? So you're taking a break from those toxins, and then the cells are cleaning out those toxins. So you no longer are battling your mind anymore. Now you literally can get within your body, and you just become more sensitive to your intuition, more sensitive to when you're praying, and just really getting in touch with yourself. And so it's a reconnection to your body, and it's the fastest way to get there.
And that's
amazing.
One of the things we talked about just before we got on air is that our cravings change as well, right? And so that's what you're talking about is, we're craving certain toxins, we're craving certain types of foods, but maybe for the wrong reasons. And then after the fast, it's, I don't want what I used to have. Now I want that. And it's usually a healthier option as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some of the differences for men versus women in fasting and how that impacts the body.
So women are complex. I mean, we have these 3 hormones that are running a lot of the show: the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Men, testosterone, a little bit estrogen. And so your body needs certain nutrients at certain times, and especially women. So there is a certain cycle that you want to work with. So estrogen does not need sugar. Is insulin sensitive. So those are the times during a woman's menstrual cycle in the beginning where you could fast, and it would be very beneficial. And estrogen can show up, because sugar can block the cell receptors, and estrogen can't work and perform as well.
Interesting.
And women who have just done that even in the beginning of their periods, the mood swings, the PMS, the heavy bleeding has changed, right? So then you have the luteal phase, the end part of your period, where it's progesterone needs to shine. And what do we crave? We crave sugar so bad. You talk to any woman, she wants sugar during that time. Progesterone needs sugar. So you don't want to be fasting during that time. Right. You want to be giving it what it needs. And when I say sugar, I don't mean
glucose,
cookies and cakes, right? I'm talking about the complex carbs, the sweet potatoes,
the glucose,
and the good stuff. Yeah. So and our body's talking to us during that time, but we're reaching for the chips and the chocolate and all that stuff. Yeah. But so there is a certain time that you want to hone in on fasting, and certain times you just want to take a step back and then and nurture those hormones. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest battle right now for people is we have metabolic syndrome. And what that is being able to shift from being a sugar burner to a fat burner. Mm-hmm. We are mostly sugar burners.
Well, and that's the society that we live in.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's what the processed food, and all the food. And so because I have a hybrid car. We need to be able to shift. We need to be able to be sugar burners and fat burners. And what fasting does is it gets you into becoming a fat burner. Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's our body is designed this way to operate off of sugar, but then also to operate off of fat. Mm-hmm. And so
needs to be able to go
back and forth.
We're talking about
ketosis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what it gets you back to being insulin sensitive again, so that you're able to shift, because people right now are struggling to lose weight. Mm-hmm. And so why? Because again, the insulin is going nonstop. Yeah. And now the cells are just closing down. And so glucose is not getting into the cell anymore. And the body is always working for us. So it's protecting us. What is it going to do with all that sugar in the body? It's going to store it in fat. Mm-hmm. What is it going to do with all those toxins? It's going to store it in fat. Mm-hmm. It's protecting us, and so instead of looking at fat as, the problem, let's look at it as, what? There's something going on here and I need to dig deeper, and maybe fasting is the key to unlocking all of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when I look at fasting, it's like, okay, it balances your hormones, it supercharges your energy, it regulates your hormones, and you now are like this superhuman. It activates your dopamine, and so I get so excited when I think about it. But you're losing fat. Who wouldn't want to tap into that? Yeah. So
well, and then it also helps to just start anew, to start afresh, right? And so you're changing your daily habits, which is something that we should all be doing. I like to think that we all change or we die. When we stop changing, we die. Right. And so this is an important thing that we can incorporate into our lives, is different types of fasting, not only for health benefits, but also just for the habit changes to get us out of a loop that we're in that maybe, for most of us may not be the healthiest loop.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Well, and to tack on to that habit thing, that is one reason I'll start a fast sometimes, is because I've gone weeks and weeks or months and months with my bad habits. Yeah. And I'm like, these are getting out of control. And sometimes it's really hard to stop. So one thing to do is just don't eat. I'm like, that's easy. It's really cheap. It saves you a lot of money, and you don't have to think about your food. So it's like, I'm just going to do a 24-hour. I'm just not going to eat. And then by the time that's over, my whole, you just reset your system. You're like, okay, stop the bad habits. And then you're so excited to eat, even if it is like a carrot, or a piece of broccoli, you're like food. And so it reframes your thought on, okay, now this is my new baseline, my new normal. I'm gonna get back to my healthy habits. So I love that.
I know we've talked about previously, we go through cycles of drinking coffee, caffeine, and then not, and transitioning off either to no caffeine or to tea caffeine.
Right.
And so I love to incorporate no caffeine or tea caffeine into my fasting.
Yeah.
The first time I ever fasted, I was definitely still drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Wasn't willing to give it up. The second time, I think I went to tea. And the most recent time, I did no caffeine just to completely reset my system.
Right.
But you talked about sugars and insulin sensitivity and the receptor sites in our cells that kind of close up, get clogged up essentially, right? They get bogged down by us being in eating sugars all the
Right.
time and our body not being able to switch over into ketosis and kind of clean itself out.
Right.
So resetting that insulin sensitivity, I think that's the same thing for me, at least how I feel is with caffeine, is that if I'm drinking 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups of coffee every day, I have to build up to that, right? Like I didn't start out drinking 3 cups of coffee a day, right? It was 1. And then I had a stressful week and then it's 2. And then I had another stressful week and then it's 3.
Right.
So having that reset then makes me more sensitive to caffeine again. So that when I come off of my fast, then I get a chance to start over and say, do I really want a whole cup or maybe I want a half cup of coffee? Or instead of drinking coffee, maybe I want black tea instead to get less caffeine.
Right.
So I
And
think
I've
that's really
noticed about like when you fast and then you stop fasting, the cravings are different.
Yes.
Right. So all of a sudden I'm like, I want more fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily I have to have fruits and vegetables. No, you just start craving that.
Right.
So the more junk you put in, the more you crave that.
Right.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so again, these cells need to be communicating. And so that's another thing. It's clearing out so that communication is clear. You know, the brain fog is lifted, you know, so so just a lifestyle of it. It's not, I'm going to fast this week or I'm going to do this long fast. Just incorporate it, you know, once a week, do a 24-hour fast. See how that makes you feel.
Well, and that's the best way to start, right? Is just to start with something.
Slow.
Start with a 12-hour.
Yeah.
And
That's
and
my
do
favorite
that.
way.
And that's
Yes.
the easiest way to start a 12-hour fast is eat dinner. And then don't eat again until that same time 12 hours later the next day, right? You just fasted for 12 hours. And it really
most of the
is
time you're sleeping.
It really is that simple. And that's the
Yeah.
hack, right? Is that you're sleeping.
Right.
And so we all kind of, I would say
Yes.
generally we've done that at multiple times throughout our lives without thinking about it, is the 12-hour fast, right? We got done eating dinner at 6 p.m. and we wake up and we have breakfast at 6 a.m. You just went 12 hours. Congratulations.
Right.
Like don't make it hard on yourself. Don't start at 6 a.m. and go to 6 p.m.
Right.
Do your first
Yeah.
fast over the night while you're sleeping.
Right.
Then I think, you know, I would say the 24 hour, I want to talk about the different lengths of time for fasting and some of the different health benefits that come from that. But the 24-hour fast is, if you, again, start at night, then, or if you start at 6 a.m., then all you really have to do is you're going, you know, another 24-hour cycle. So you're really just skipping one day. And then my hack for the 36-hour fast is, again, you start at night. So you're getting 12 hours of night, then you're skipping a day, and then you're doing 12 hours of night again, so you get to have breakfast. So really, all you feel is you went 12 hours without eating.
Right.
Because you were asleep for 24.
Right.
I do the same thing. It's like this mental thing.
So the first time I heard about a 36-hour fast, I was like, oh, that's a long time. I don't know if I can do that.
Right.
But when you think about it, it's like, well, if I can sleep twice
not.
during that,
Right.
it's really not that bad.
Right. Totally. Yes.
It's so true.
smart.
So let's talk a little bit about autophagy and what that means and what that is.
So autophagy is self-eating. That's what it means. So the cells basically are recycling themselves and they're cleaning out the toxins. So, and then these cells are replicating all the time. You want to not be replicating sick cells. You want healthy cells.
Because the first cells that go away are the sick cells,
Yeah.
are the cells that
Yes.
have a little mutation. The DNA wasn't
Right.
copied correctly.
Right.
And so your body's going to go through and look. And this is what we found, the research found with autophagy, is the weakest link is the one that gets removed first. And that's
Yes.
amazing. It's truly a way to clean our body.
Totally. Yeah. And the body's brilliant. It's recycling the good stuff and it's getting rid of the bad stuff. And then apoptosis, the programmed cell death, it's getting rid of those cancerous cells and the cells that just need to be gone. And that will happen at a certain time during a fast. So that's when the lengths are super powerful, when you start realizing, oh, how cool. So if I just go a little bit longer, then this is going to happen. Yeah. But you start off slow always, because the body needs to get used to it. And then this way you won't have like a Herxheimer effect, or that you're detoxing too fast. So I usually, when I'm working with clients, I'll say, let's just start off with 12 hours. See how you feel. Journal, and then you just add an hour. do 13 hours. 13 to 15 hours is when your body now starts switching into fat burner mode. Right. So it's no longer the sugar burner. And then 17 hours is when autophagy starts happening. And then the cool one, which I did not know this, the 24-hour one is the gut repair.
Yes.
Which these stem cells in your gut lining just ramp up and they start healing you. So like, if you were somebody who was on antibiotics for a long time, you have gut dysbiosis, right now, leaky gut, SIBO, I mean, come on, these stem cells start healing. Right? And I'm thinking,
around that 24-hour
this is the
mark.
coolest tool in the toolbox.
Yes.
It's free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
that's I love that about the gut at the 24 hours. So that's a little bit before 24 hours, you start to get autophagy, which is incredibly important on its own. But on this podcast, we've talked about a lot the importance of gut health and how the gut is our second brain and how a lot of our hormones start in our gut. A lot of our bodily processes start with a healthy gut.
Right.
And so if we can heal our gut by just going 24 hours without eating, because our body is going to start releasing stem cells in the gut to heal itself. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The intelligence is like, it gets me so excited. Then you have, then it's the 36-hour. Again, that's your liver just unloading some more toxins, over the years, because toxins are cumulative. And then at the 48-hour, the 48 to 72 is pretty bomb. I mean, so people feel just like superhuman because it is now regenerating a lot of the neurotransmitters. So the dopamine ramps up, and so it's incredible. And serotonin. There are people that have been depressed and have just done a 48-hour fast, and they all of a sudden they're like, I feel so much better.
It resets your hormones. It resets your receptor sites. And so the way that it was explained to me once is that the way that fasting works and healing your body and doing that is that you're putting the body into a stressed state.
Yeah.
So the body is going through different organ systems and trying to figure out, okay, well, is the reason that they're not eating because maybe like they don't feel good and they need more energy, which would be like, okay, let's get them up. Let's get the dopamine and serotonin run. Let's get them up and moving and feeling good so that they'll eat. Right. But that happens, around that like 48 to 72 hour mark. And so earlier than that, in that like 12 to 24 hour period, it's the gut health. And so the body's going, well, food is related to the gut, right? Because that's where we process and that's where we get all of our nutrients. So maybe their stomach hurts. Maybe there's something where they just don't feel like eating. So maybe they got food poisoning and we need to heal the gut. So it's the body kind of starts there. Let's heal the gut and see if that gets them to eat again. And again, it's your body looking out for itself, for you, and trying to heal whatever is broken. But now that we know this, we can use that to our benefit. And so we can do a gut cleansing fast, a liver cleansing fast, or a dopamine cleansing fast.
Yes. It is.
That's so good.
Fascinating. Yeah. So, and then, we're spending so much money on stem cell therapy. I mean, 72 hours is when the body starts making new stem cells. So we're getting a whole makeover if we can just push ourselves to 72 hours. Yeah. Free.
Yes. Yes.
Let's do it. So I mean, amazing the things that happen. And like I said, I'm working with women who have struggled. The main thing, my hormones are off and I can't lose weight. Okay, well, let's just start slowly adding in fasting. And I'm telling you, they're coming in going, I'm dropping weight, I'm feeling good. And so
that's amazing.
Yeah. It's just a simple lifestyle hack that you can just add in.
Yeah. So what would you say are some of the myths or misbeliefs about fasting? Like when somebody comes in, we've touched on a little bit. So one of the first ones for me was fasting is starvation. And that's a mindset shift. And that's something that like you have to switch your mindset on that is fasting isn't about starvation. Fasting is about healing yourself. But what are some of the other things that you might hear when people come into the clinic?
No one really says anything. They'll just say, I've heard that it's not good for you, or it'll slow down my metabolism, or
that's a big one.
That's what I believed.
Right.
And it's actually the opposite.
It's an opportunity for your metabolism to reset.
It will slow it
also.
down. Right. Yeah, right. It will slow it down if you don't change it up. You again, it has to be variation. The body, it's the same thing like when you work out. You want to do a different workout so that you have that muscle confusion. So everything the body needs in balance. So it could be a good thing, but you don't want to do it all the time. Yeah.
Right.
You want to keep it guessing.
Well, because it doesn't become a stressor at that point, right? And so that's there was a study that was done that looked at plants that were grown in the absolute perfect environment. And they were wilting and they were falling over and they weren't strong. They weren't healthy, even though they had everything that they needed.
Right.
They didn't have the wind pushing against them to make them strong and sturdy to stand up straight. Amazing. Right. They had so much water available that the second that the water wasn't available right when they wanted it, they became super dehydrated and unhealthy. Right. And so it's one of those, if we stress our bodies a little bit, if we push ourselves, that's when we are our best.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think another common misconception is that fasting is water only. You can't put anything in your body. So one thing, when I got started in fasting, I did a lot of juice fasts, which when you have calories, it's not an official fast where you're in autophagy, but you're still fasting. It's still the essence of a fast is telling yourself no, basically, that I'm not gonna. It's like fasting TV or fasting your phone. You can fast anything, and this goes back to like the church days where it's a spiritual reason. So I'm gonna fast Facebook, you know. Yeah. But when we're talking about here is food and autophagy. But you can start with even like a juice fast. You could do green juices for a day to then ramp yourself up to then do a no food fast. So a common misconception is the only way to get any health benefits is just not eat and drink water only. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things you can do to fast something that is important to you. So maybe it's just fasting coffee. Eating the way you eat, but you just fast coffee. That's the way you work yourself into basically depriving yourself, so you think, of something to help your willpower, help your self-control develop to the point where you can say, okay, I think I'm ready to now do my no food thing. Yeah. You know,
but there is a significant health benefit to fasting coffee, fasting caffeine, right? Like you're healing your adrenals.
Absolutely.
You're giving your body a chance to reset. You're helping reset your stress response,
right?
Which is something that we haven't talked about yet, but I think is another really important component of fasting. You know, I wear an Oura ring. I'm always tracking my biometrics. On the days that I'm fasting, my heart rate variability, my HRV improves. Like my heart rate variability goes up significantly when I'm fasting.
That's amazing.
My heart rate also lowers. Like I am a healthier person, and my stress response, the longer I fast, gets better. The more resilient I feel like I become. And so those are some of the things that what have you guys experienced?
Yeah. So just along the same lines as I notice when I eat late at night, my heart rate during the night stays high.
Definitely.
And so I get, notoriously, I go to sleep typically about the same time every night and get a good 8 hours, but I get worse sleep the later I eat.
Right.
Because my heart rate goes up and I don't drink really at all, but I feel hungover if I've had too much like fried food or salty or really just anything. Yeah. It's like I don't feel as good. And so just not even that 12-hour fast, not eating past your dinner at 7 or 6, just having that evening time before you go to sleep with an empty stomach, you'll sleep so much better. Yeah. I mean, it's like scientifically proven, like you guys are saying.
Yes. It's so true. Because again, the body is meant to heal through the night.
Yes.
You know, it's detoxing and it's cleaning. We just now put a huge stressor on it.
Right.
Now you need to digest and use all your energy for this.
Instead of restorative sleep.
Instead of sleeping and detoxing. So then the next day, this is why you feel sluggish.
Yeah.
And now you're craving garbage food and... It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
And we're not supposed to eat when the sun goes down. We are definitely more insulin resistant at night.
Right.
So that's why it's a good thing to take a break at night and not do that.
And do your 36-hour fasts
Yeah.
with 2 night cycles.
Yes, exactly.
Right, I know,
Cheat the system a little bit.
It is.
Play smarter.
Yeah.
So
great.
we talked a little bit about toxins and detoxing. Can you elaborate a little bit more on when fasting may not be good for you as it relates to toxins? Or we talked a little bit about skin
and being careful of that. So that's why you'd want to start slow. I'll say like for 2 weeks, just start playing around with it. Do the 12-hour, add another hour. Like just keep pushing your window just a little bit more of that fasting window.
Get those little wins.
Yeah. And just, because again, you don't want to overload the body with the toxins. And then usually now.
So why would the body get overloaded with toxins when you're fasting?
Because now the cells are going to just start pushing out stuff.
So autophagy,
too
what we
fast,
talked about.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why you want it slow and steady, right? And so you want to introduce it slowly. And that, again, back to that metabolic switching, your body is now getting used to burning fat for fuel.
And if you haven't done that ever
it's not
or
used
in
to
a
that.
year, then
right. And then that's when people are just like, "Oh, I'm so tired. I have a headache. I'm not feeling
Keto
good."
flu.
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, and that's when people quit. Oh no, yep, it didn't work for me. So yeah,
you have to push through that.
Yeah, you do. But you'll avoid it if you are doing it slowly and carefully, because you will be able to switch.
Because it's at the 12-hour, you're just starting to get into ketosis.
Yeah.
And so then if you do a 13, it's like, well, you were right there at ketosis. And then if you do a 14 and a 15.
Right.
So I like that way of doing it. I did not start out my longer fasts by adding an hour and starting
And
at 12.
you can even start eating, keto, even 3 days before. So start getting rid of those processed foods. Yeah. Start eating the 30 grams of protein at every meal, your vegetables. So you're already
but only certain vegetables. But,
yes, the lower ones. But it doesn't matter because you're just starting, so you don't have to be really strict.
Okay, so you're just kind of helping your body get used to being on a lower carbohydrate
getting into ketosis,
diet.
because that's what's starting to happen. So so a lot of times I'll get a little bit strict when I know I'm getting ready to do the 3 or 4 day fast. And so that just helps with, smoothly transitioning into it. It's not as hard, but that's it. It's the practice of that, because your body doesn't know any different, and it's so used to burning sugar for fuel. Right. And so it needs to, but once you do it, you become, to me, I'm like, oh, I have to do it. I just feel so much better.
Yes.
And you sleep better.
It's addicting a little bit.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. No, it's almost like, okay, what else can I?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, I'm superhuman now.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
I have a question about exercising while you're fasting. What would you say would be a good rule of thumb? Should you not exercise at all if you're fasting, or what do you think about that? Because you're burning more calories, you're hungry. If people are used to going to the gym but want to incorporate this in a daily lifestyle, like what do they do?
So again, I think of, are you menstruating? Like what part of your cycle are you in? I personally like to exercise when I'm fasting. I feel good. But during those first 10 days of your cycle, go for it. Your estrogen and testosterone are awesome. And you might even feel like you have more energy to do that workout. Again, the last part of your cycle, you want to be sensitive. So I think it just depends, but that would be something that, everyone's bio-individual. Really, I say an hour to 2 hours after you exercise, kind of see what you feel like. If you feel exhausted, well, then
you went too hard.
Yeah. You pushed yourself too much.
Right.
Because ultimately your body is still using energy to clean itself out.
Right.
It's not using the energy to digest anymore.
Right.
So it's going to switch off, and now it's got to boost that cortisol for you to go ahead and work out.
Right.
Again, sometimes the body's like, oh yeah, cool, bring it on.
Yeah.
And other times,
Yeah.
So it's just listening to your body.
Yeah.
Which I always come back to.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And that's what I want to add is there's also the component of in a fast, there is muscle loss that will occur if you go an extended period of time without eating, right? Because your body will look for energy sources. It still has to create energy. So it will look to fat, but it'll also look to muscle. And so that is something that, depending on who you are, depending on where you're at in life, it's something that you need to be aware of. And so here's my shameless plug for a company that we're not affiliated with, which is Perfect Aminos. And they make a product that is few enough calories. It's like you want to be under 5 to 10 calories in order to stay in a fast, but they're giving you amino acids so that you can still work out. You can still have the muscle recovery, rebuild muscle after workouts while staying in a fasted state, which is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. I would say that you're going to start losing muscle if you're in a prolonged fast. That really doesn't start
more than 48 hours. Yeah. I around the 72-hour mark, right?
Yeah. Again, depending on your body, but that's the cool thing of ketosis is that, a lot of people will say, oh gosh, I'm going to lose muscle. The science has said that no, you don't, unless, again, you're not going in and out of it.
Right.
Because now your body's like, I'm starving. So it is going to look to your muscle and start getting its nutrients. So that's where I'll be like, make sure you're doing your Celtic salt on your tongue with your water and making sure you're getting those electrolytes. That really will help you from having that feeling of the keto flu.
Right.
So doing those things. So yes, I love Perfect Amino. I take that myself. So yes.
But it all comes back to, there is a type of diet, the ketogenic diet that we've been talking about, that mimics the same state that your body's going to be in while you're fasting. So if you start to incorporate, if fasting sounds interesting and exciting to you, one of the things that you could do to start this is the ketogenic diet. Right. So Google it. But essentially, the healthy ketogenic diet, definitely. There's dirty ways to do it as well. Yes, there is. But you want to reduce your carb intake as much as possible. So you're not eating the processed foods. You're not eating those types of sugars, right? And you're keeping your body in ketosis, which is it's burning essentially fat for fuel instead of sugar for fuel.
Yes. Yeah. That's awesome.
So I think the concept of the 4-minute mile is really fascinating. The idea that once somebody ran a mile faster than 4 minutes, then all of a sudden everybody could do it, right? I can't, but a lot of people could, because once you show somebody, once you see, oh, somebody else did this, then it unlocks a barrier, right? Totally. Like the hardest thing is to be the first person to break that thing. But once somebody does it, then it's replicable.
Right.
So how long have you fasted before?
My very longest fast, I think, was 5 days.
Wow.
Yes. And this was, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
But mainly 3 days has been kind of my sweet spot. Yeah.
Same. I've done 4 days, and then I get so mad at myself. Like, I could have did the 5th day. Why did I do it? Because that is when your immune system is resetting itself at that 72-hour mark. Yeah. Yeah, that's like So I'm just like, what? So that's my goal.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that'll be my goal too. Yeah. I've made it to 72 hours. I haven't gone beyond 80. So maybe coming out of this, my new goal, I'll do a 5-day fast.
How did you feel when you did the?
I felt great. Yeah. I felt like it really reset my system from what we've talked about, like the caffeine, but also you do get that mental clarity. Yeah. And you feel crisp and clean, and you feel on top of it. Yeah. And I'm sure, like you talked about, it's the dopamine and the serotonin. Yeah. Like you're getting the hormones that are making you feel great. But you really do, when you get to that 72-hour mark, you feel really good. And it's
you should feel really good.
Part of me wanted to eat. Part of me wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the first time I had got to 72 hours, so it was like, okay. And
it was a win.
Now. But,
And that's that magical switch, though, that because that's what I was like. I'm like, I'm not really hungry. I think it's just the habit.
Yeah, totally.
And then your brain starts fantasizing about the meal.
Yes.
But listen, this is super important. You need to be careful the way you break a fast.
Yes.
The way you start a fast, the way you break a fast. And gosh, you could feel horrible. So I always say, introduce the good fats. Yes. Just in light.
So
not a lot.
What does breaking a fast look like?
So, I might do, when I broke my fast, I just did like a half of avocado. And then I did, and made sure I did a protein. So, and I didn't want to do anything that would make my stomach upset or anything. Right. So that, I would say that first 12 hours is super crucial. And then I did berries, and so it was simple. And it wasn't anything mixed or heavy. Yeah. And so, because I have done it wrong before. Yeah. And I just feel like I just did the whole thing.
Don't end your fast with a big meal.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is so important. It's like when you set your mind to go do a fast, let's say 3 days. It's not 3 days. It should be 5 days. The fast is 3 days, but the other 2 days are weaning off of the fast. So you are doing something for longer than you think, because if you do break it and you just go back, you go straight back to your, large cheese pizza or whatever. Right. Yeah, you still have all the benefits from
a lot of that is fat, which is also one of the benefits, one of the reasons to go on a fast, right? Is that you're burning the fat. You're getting rid of a lot of the old cells, which a lot of those are fat cells, right?
Right,
and so,
right.
But yeah, if you break your fast with a cheese pizza,
you're going to feel like crap. You're going to be so mad at yourself, and you're going to wish you would have pre-planned that next 24 hours to wean yourself off, so then you come out of the whole thing feeling awesome and empowered. I remember one time I did a fast, and it was that night, that was like the 72-hour mark, and I went for sushi. And I'm thinking, okay, sushi's okay. It's just these little tiny, and it's rice, and it was the soy sauce. I really think it was the soy sauce. And I could feel my liver convulsing. It was like, I hate you. And I'm like, why did I do that? I didn't, because in my mind, my fast stopped at 9 p.m. or whatever.
Right.
And I was done, and I had completed it. Well, no, it shouldn't have. I should have went that next 24 hours of very methodical, this is how I'm breaking the fast. So then maybe the following day, the sushi wouldn't have hurt my stomach so bad, So that's something to think about. Go that day past, really plan it out so you can make that smooth transition. So your body's like, yes, I love all of this. And then you're more likely to want to do it again.
Right. Absolutely. So avocados, that's also how I break my fasts.
Yeah.
Or how I end my fasts. What else, other than, you mentioned berries also?
A good protein. I would say a good protein.
So is that meat protein or like nuts? Well,
you can do that. I chose chicken or, just not smothered with a bunch of extras, that you do with it. I just think
keep
of
it light,
simple.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. I mean, satiating, obviously, because the protein and the good fat. So you can even drizzle olive oil on your avocado. So, yeah.
And then I think the only other thing I wanted to touch on as well is during the fast, we talked about having caffeine, not having caffeine. It's really up to you, how you feel. Listen to how you feel and then adjust accordingly. What else do you guys do during your fasts? Is it water only? Is water only the best way to do it?
I think it depends on your goal. Why are you fasting? Are you fasting to lose weight? Are you fasting for a disease? Or are you fasting for your hormones? Because then the things that you do during that is going to be super important. Because again, being on a keto diet and fasting are very similar. So you could still be in ketosis when you're doing your coffee and your creamer, and then you have an avocado in the afternoon. So it depends. So, but if you are going to actually, where you're wanting to now balance your hormones and lose weight and clean out these bad cells, then you're going to want to just do water. I do some lemon water with mine. There was one time, the interesting thing is they said now, the science now that it's coming out, that you can extend that fast. So if you wanted to do 36 to 72, that you could actually do some green olives. Maybe I did 3 green olives when I was...
Interesting. Okay.
And the science has shown that it has not gotten you out of ketosis. And I don't know if it's just because it's concentrated fat. I'm not sure, but fat bombs, same thing. So, but I don't think that if you truly are doing it because you're wanting to heal yourself, I would say just strictly do the water.
Yeah.
I just think that's the best way for the body not to even, because ultimately you are still turning on your digestive system. The goal is to not, because now the immune system can go and do its work.
Right. Okay.
So, but if you were just wanting to lose weight, add some of the olives, add, the avocado or whatever.
Yeah.
So but a real fast, I would just say, is get the make sure you have the minerals, and you're just doing the water.
So
fast.
Salt. What other types of minerals?
Yeah. So people do the trace minerals that you can do.
I use LMNT, which I think it's salt, magnesium, some other stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So I just get the Baja salt that you can do, or Redmond's real salt, and I put it on my tongue so it's immediate, sublingual, and then I drink the water, and drinking a lot of water.
Yes. That's super important.
That's going to just help clear out the toxins and
which will help you feel better throughout your fast as well.
Absolutely.
So you'll feel worse the less water you drink.
Yeah. And because even when, you start getting hunger pains, sometimes just having that water, it turns it off.
Yeah. I've heard even if it's warm water, because it kind of tricks your body a little bit, makes you feel like you're getting something
That's a
more
great
nutritious
idea.
just to do warm water. It's like you're having a soup.
Yeah, that's pretty sad when you're fasting. Is warm water is like steak compared to cold water.
Totally, I'm gonna try that.
I loved what you said about lemon, because that's what I do, is the lemon water, and I feel like lemon just gets your body more hydrated than just regular water. Plus, lemon's antibacterial, it's antiviral, so the lemon in the water. And it's just the nutritional properties inside the lemon are antiviral and antibacterial. So as your body is in autophagy and those cells are killing off, the lemon in the water is also helping to fight that viral activity and flush it out.
Because
it's no calories, so it's something you can drink with every water if you needed something more than just the plain water.
Right. And that's the important part about the toxins getting flushed, is that they have to, when your body breaks them down, they do go back into your bloodstream before they get excreted. And so you might be susceptible to some of those viruses, to some of those toxins. So if you have eczema or other things, you might see some skin flare-ups. Is something that we talked about before this episode.
Something also I like, sorry, I had just realized this, is during my 3-day fast, I actually took a binder. And so that just helps, for the body to excrete some of those
like
toxins.
Charcoal?
Yeah, so activated charcoal.
Okay.
My favorite one is the GI detox, but that really can help. Also with keto flu, or if your stomach just feels off or you don't feel good. Yeah. I mean, you could even do it, even in a lesser fast than the 36 to 72, but. And anything to help the body, because that activated charcoal is literally binding to the toxins and chemicals and just flushing it out. So why not?
You mentioned something a few minutes ago that I wanted to come back to, and that was if you're doing a fast for fat loss, or if you're doing a fast for health purposes. So maybe you have a disease, maybe you have cancer or something, something that's more significant like that. You talked about your immune system. And so we didn't get to mention where in that cycle of hours that our immune system resets, but there is actually a point, I think that it's 24 hours, maybe it's 36 hours, where your white blood cells actually recycle. And so I heard about this from another doctor, and she is now having her patients who are going to have chemotherapy do a 36-hour fast, because I think it's a 36-hour mark. So that at the 36-hour mark in their fast is when they're starting their chemotherapy, because they start their chemotherapy, they end it, then their body floods new white blood cells. Which
Loved that.
What an amazing concept to use kind of the rhythm, the cycles of our body to then help you get through a treatment as well that's as harsh as chemotherapy, but necessary in some cases.
So you would know better because of the science. What I learned was it was 48 to 72 hours, depending on the body.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm thinking it probably does start at that 36 hour.
But
Wouldn't be surprised.
The fact that you can layer fasting with something like chemotherapy, and then you're also, we talked about autophagy, and the body's going to get rid of the weakest cells first. Right. One of the important things about cancer cells that we've kind of learned in studying fasting is that cancer cells are really bad at processing fat for fuel. Mm-hmm. So what do cancer cells love? They love sugar. So the more carbohydrates we eat, the easier it is for cancer cells to grow and spread and reproduce. So if you switch to a ketogenic diet, right, not even talking about fasting yet, just if you just switch your diet to ketogenic, where you're in ketosis and you can operate that way, your body, your normal healthy cells can operate just fine in ketosis. You can still live and thrive, but you're making it harder on those cancer cells, right? Like they're struggling now trying to operate in that ketosis state. Yeah. But then you throw in fasting on top of that and you get the autophagy benefits. Right. Now you have this immune system reset where your white blood cells are refreshed. You have a full new army to go out and attack and look for cells that shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. Right. That's where I think you're setting yourself up for success. So it's combining that ketogenic diet, putting yourself in ketosis, and then entering that fasting state.
And that's why I like
be smart when you enter your fast, be smart when you exit your fast as well.
Totally.
So good.
Love that. It's so good.
Well, I think that's a great way to wrap it up. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me on this episode and talking about fasting.
Love it. Yeah, I love it. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
You've been listening to The Science of Sound with Aaron Fournier. If you found today's conversation insightful, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. For more resources on frequency-based wellness, follow along at Soak Podcast. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and stay in tune with the science of sound.